Hello and welcome to another episode of Seeing Live. I'm Colion Noir. Our first guest is an American hero, one of the so-called secret soldiers of Benghazi, John Tiegen, better known to 13-hour readers and watchers as Tig. How's it going, man?
Oh, doing good. Just have some internet problems.
Man, you think at this point we'd have figured out the internet forwards and backwards, but even now I can't seem to get it on the wraps most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. So take us through that night in Benghazi. What led you to write the book and to do the movie?
It's just kind of how the leaders of the country kind of portraying the story. Even after we all went and testified in front of Congress, thinking they would kind of come out and correct the story. Mm-hmm. Even the incident that they say that the ambassador was tortured and mutilated and all that stuff never happened, and they just didn't want to change the story. They just kept going with, it was a protest, it was this, there's no stand down. So we said, well, I guess the only way we're going to get across is to write a book so they can't change it. So that's kind of how the book came about.
So for people who don't really understand the intricacies of what happened that night and then the political implications and so forth, what in your mind do you feel was the biggest motivation behind them not wanting to not acknowledge exactly what was going on there that night?
They just had a political agenda, and that was, the biggest thing was Al-Qaeda was on the run. Libya was kind of Hillary's baby for the most part, and that was going to kind of help her and Obama get elected and then help her for her election. And when it went south, they just try to find a way, an excuse for why it happened and how it happened instead of just exactly how it happened. I mean, it was a straight up attack, and everybody knew it.
Gotcha. Now that particular day, was there did this kind of come out of nowhere for you? Was there kind of a general feeling in the air of kind of tension and angst, or were you caught completely? I mean, I watched the movie quite a bit actually, but was there kind of a how do you say?
Like signs, kind of.
Yeah, like was there anything that kind of like in retrospect, you look back and you're like, wait, okay, see now it all makes sense.
I mean, for the most part, they kind of knew it was coming. They even put out a list of what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. It started off with, they're going to do a Red Cross, they're going to do the bridge, and then we were next. And that was actually the third time that consulate had been attacked in Benghazi, and I was there the second time it got attacked. So they knew something was coming. And for them to sit there and say they got caught their pants down, though, they got caught not doing the right thing, which was lack of security.
Gotcha. Now, was there, if looking back on it, from a kind of a tactical perspective, was there anything that you would have done differently? Like if there was something tactically that you would have done differently, what would that be?
Left immediately and not wait.
Gotcha.
I mean, that would have saved two lives for sure if we'd have left immediately.
Gotcha. And so you have a lot of experience in Benghazi. You had a lot of experience in Benghazi even prior to the day. What was the environment on a general basis from day to day? What was an environment like in Benghazi?
It started off, it was kind of hectic. A lot of local neighborhoods kind of controlled their own neighborhoods, kind of like, like street gangs for the most part. And except for they just have their guns and AKs, and they do barricades throughout the neighborhood. And, you hear gunshots, explosions going on all night long. And, over time it started, dying down. And, the last trip was fairly quiet. They had a couple incidents where, a bunch of people went and stole a bunch of cars from a dealership and parked it right next to the police station down there, and they had a big firefight that lasted about 2 hours between the police department and the carjackers. It was pretty weird, but it was starting to calm down, starting to get back to normal. A lot of shops are starting to open back up, and when we went out in town, we were always greeted pretty much with respect. I mean, which is very, very rare in a Muslim country. I mean, they'd come out, shake your hand, they'd want to buy you, a coffee, and it was, pretty much different, but there was always like that mob mentality there, like a gangster, back in Chicago days. It was just always sitting there on the surface.
Now, why do you think the environment there was a little bit different compared to other Muslim countries in terms of the more welcoming nature that you got from the majority of the people there?
I just think they were just so suppressed by Gaddafi that, he was even scared to go down there because he almost got assassinated one time and he never went back. And, just in the fact that we actually helped, liberate them and they wanted him out of there, and they were just very grateful for it. And, even after Ambassador Stevens was killed a week later, there was about 100,000, local Libyans, stood up against the terrorists and attacked them. And, our administration just stood back and didn't do anything. If they were smart, they'd have jumped right on board and started backing them immediately, but they just stood back and didn't do anything.
Gotcha. Which is unfortunate. Now,
yeah.
That night, when did it hit you? Like, basically, shit has hit the fan. Like, you're like, this is really going down, and it's not going to be good.
What was that?
No, I was asking, at what point that night did it really hit you? Like, it really phoned home. Like, no, okay, this is happening, and this is not going to be good.
I would probably say, it was not good when we got them this call. We made it over when they actually did a counter assault on the consulate. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like, I think when the 6 of us had said, yeah, this is going to be a very long night, because they almost came back a second time to hit us again at the consulate, but we took off.
Oh,
so
really?
We knew, we knew it was going to be a long night.
Gotcha. And so just from an artillery standpoint, just the weapons that you guys had, how confident were you, and before you kind of before you guys got the stand down orders, and I know I asked you earlier, and you said that at least 2 people would have survived. How confident were you in just the ability of you all to withstand a long drawn out firefight right before it hit? Was that something that that if it ever went down, you guys were prepared for, or did you kind of look at it like, we might be in a little bit of a dicey situation here?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be dicey because we're a small unit tactic, small units, and we are our own backup for the most part. But you have to have that confidence. Hey, we can get through this, no problem. And because if you start second guessing, that's when you're going to start losing. And we just push forward the whole time, like, we got this. We're gonna, we're moving them off.
Gotcha.
So we had superior firepower, we had superior training. So in our minds, we were a lot better than they were. They might get a lucky egg on us, but we knew we had them.
Gotcha. Now, I'd asked this question before when Tonto was on. What was the chief really that bad?
We've actually been told we portrayed him pretty good in the movie. So, not to really bag on him too much, but he thought about the family and stuff like that. Very family-oriented man. So if you ever had family problems, he definitely helps take care of that. But tactically and security, he did not need to be in that position. I mean, he was way out of his league.
Gotcha. So now, how has life changed for you since you've gotten back from Libya?
A lot. I mean, I went from always, knowing what I was doing constantly, and then to like a whole new realm that I'm still not used to yet. Still trying to get used to it, and I don't mind getting up and speaking in front of people, but it's still, it's not really my thing. But a story needs to be told, so I do it.
Gotcha. And so, like, it's interesting, and I always wonder what it's like to transition back and forth, because there's such a stark distinction between life over there and then, of course, life over here. Were there any elements of life in Benghazi that you thought were, I don't say better, but that there were elements to it that you wish we kind of had here in America?
Not really. I mean, they could kind of really actually do what they, have the biggest thing, I'd say, homeowner association stuff. I think we need to get rid of that. And just be clean neighbors.
Fair enough.
But, their traffic law is a little bit more lenient than ours, but you see some of the stuff they do over there, it's not that great. But, heck, you over there, you get caught speeding, it's like $10, whether you're doing 100 over or 5 over. It's just like, hey, you owe me $10. So,
gotcha.
But you ain't going to court, you're just paying right there on the side of the road. That'd be kind of better.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that, especially considering how I'm a habitual speeder.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. So now with things being the way that they are now, and going into the kind of more movie elements of it, do you feel like the movie did, on a scale of, I don't say 1 to 10, how well do you think the movie did in representing what actually happened that night?
I think it was about 70% accurate for exactly what happened that night. I mean, they had a lot of extra explosions. There was no buses that blew up or vehicles that blew up. I mean, there were a couple of vehicles that got burnt down because they set them on fire. But, you know, some of the things were a little bit easier done in the movie than they were in real life. But, you know.
Is there anything in particular that stands out?
As for what was easier or harder?
Yeah. Well, that was done easier in the movie, but harder in life.
Them tacking the annex was actually a lot harder in real life than it was in the movie, because they had a lot more covered than they did than they showed in the movie, and you couldn't really see them move up the way they did, and so for that part, I would say that it was a lot harder in real life than it was in the movie. Because I mean, in the movie you could just see them perfectly, like they're right there, but you know, in real life they're hiding behind the shrub and shooting through the shrub, so it was a little bit more difficult. And going into the consulate to actually search for the ambassador was a little bit harder in real life than it was in the movie, but they can't really make a pitch black screen trying to show somebody move through, because in real life you got a flashlight in your face and you couldn't even see it. That's how thick the smoke was. Jeez.
So when you were actually going through and looking for him, what was going through your mind at the time?
I just hope we find him, and kind of thinking of what happened in Black Hawk Down when they found the pilots and dragged them through the street. That's kind of what was going through my mind. Like, I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking with Tig, and we'll do some more talking about the movie in particular.